that a mosque is not a Muslim church. A mosque is what Muhammad used the mosque for. And Muhammad used the mosque for storing ammunition, for storing food, for planning jihad. It's where jihadis stayed, and it's the place from whence the jihad was launched. And so a mosque is more like a military outpost.
How direct is the relationship between mosques and insurrection in America?
The mosque is the place from which they launched the jihad against us. I don't know how to be more clear than that. That's what a mosque is.
Since jihadi Islam is a political cult system of Muhammad and the Quran, not really a religion as envisioned by our founders, and since mosques have been proven to be centers for the instruction of Sharia, which demands death to all non-Muslims and the collapse of the United States and the Western world, would it then therefore be accurate to conclude that the FBI, local and state law enforcement should view Islamic mosques as recruitment and training centers for subversive activities and enemies of the United States of America and its citizens? And if they should, do they?
Well, the first part of your question, yes, absolutely they should. As John mentioned, it is part of their oath and their duty to understand the enemy in this. Do they understand this? From our experience at understanding the threat, traveling around the country and training law enforcement on this, whether it's a group of 50 law enforcement officers or whether it's a group of 300, we always do this. We do a training program. Usually our flagship training program is 3 days on understanding the jihadi threat. And when we ask them at the beginning and at the end of the program, if they knew the information that we told them and that we trained them on, none of the hands go up. When we ask them, is this information that we have trained you over the last 3 days critical to protecting your communities, all of their hands raise up. So to answer your first question, as far as mosques being arsenals, well, of course they would be, because again, that's what Muhammad used the mosque for. Weapons, ammunition were stored at the mosque, and jihadis prepared for battle at the mosque, and then they actually launched the jihad from the mosque. Now, why are they masquerading as anything other than what a mosque is because that's effective warfare. You're deceiving your enemy. So, of course, they're going to tell us that the mosque is everything that we want to hear, a peaceful place where we just come and pray. Except when, under Islamic law, Muslims are obliged to lie to advance the jihad. So, of course, they're going to tell us what we want to hear. It's our responsibility to actually learn about the enemy from their own documents and books and not listen to what they're telling us, knowing that they're obliged to lie to us to advance the jihad.
To answer your question very briefly, I'd say this, is we lay out, as we do when we brief and teach and train law enforcement or leaders, the jihadi movement, the terrorist movement in the United States is working directly in conjunction with the hard-left Marxist movement. Mm-hmm. So whether we're talking about any of the Soros-funded groups, including Black Lives Matter, at the ground level, at the state level, at the national level, and at the international level, they are working together. And there are a lot of common threads that tie them together. And to kind of punctuate that, I'll just say this. During the 1980s, 100% of the anti-nuclear protests in Europe and the United States were funded by the Soviet Union. 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 people don't randomly just pop up with pre-printed signs and a complete logistical plan out of nowhere. You're correct about that. This is all, when you see these things, whether it's in Ferguson or Baltimore or New York or wherever, they are planned and they are funded by enemies of the United States. Mm-hmm.